Well, good morning. It's Tuesday morning. We missed yesterday. I got busy with things and didn't realize until pretty late in the day that I hadn't even done a devotion for you. So I hope that you weren't sitting up all night waiting. But today we're going to pick up where we were with Psalm 71. Now, this psalm is about 24 verses long. We're only going to read 3 of them. In you, O Lord, do I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. In your righteousness, deliver me and rescue me. Incline your ear to me and save me. Be to me a rock of refuge to which I may continually come. You have given the command to save me, for you are my rock and my fortress. So in those 3 verses, we actually see a lot of typical psalm writing language. As we've seen over and over and over and over, David sort of says the same things all the time, which is not that unusual. If you think about songwriters, if you think about the Beatles, Love, Love Me Do, and all those other songs, they were almost all the same message. For several years, they wrote these She Loves Me, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah songs. And that's what they wrote. When you line them up like this, like the book of Psalms, you'd see that they're very repetitious and very much the same. So that's just a thing. And in David's case, it's, you are my refuge and my strength and smite my enemies, oh God, that kind of thing. So let's take this slowly. In you, O Lord, do I take refuge. So first of all, he's looking for a place of refuge, a place where he can hide, a place where he can be safe. So he's going to take refuge in the Lord. Let me never be put to shame. Now, shame is an issue for David. That's an issue in the Old Testament. It's an issue in some cultures. It's not an issue really in our culture. We have a different kind of structure in this culture, but there are cultures where the worst possible thing that could happen is that you'd be ashamed, you'd be humiliated, and that kind of thing. And so, let me never be put to shame. Don't let them be able to point at me and go, In your righteousness, deliver me and rescue me. So Hebrew repetition again, deliver me and rescue me. The same thing, 2 different words, means the same thing. Incline your ear to me and save me. Now, incline your ear to me is a Hebrew idiom. And, like somebody would go, what? Leaning their ear down to you. Incline your ear to me. That's just the way they say, listen to me, hear me, and save me. So sometimes we have to understand what these idioms mean. Be to me, or be for me, a rock of refuge to which I may continually come. So be a rock of safety and protection where I can come. You've given the command to save me. You are my rock and you are my fortress. So over and over and over in the Psalms, it says, you're my rock. Imagine that you're living in the wilderness of Judea and it's mostly rocky, sandy, deserty kind of hillsides and stuff. And so there's not that much protection. And so you need a rock. You need a big rock that you can hide in or behind or under or something. And so, a big rock is important. I knew a guy years ago who was a retired Marine colonel, actually. And during the first Gulf War, he came to the church one day. He was one of those guys that came about every day and had coffee and hung around. And he shows up one morning and he's been watching the news and he shakes his head and he says, in Korea, we could at least dig a foxhole or hide behind a tree or something. He says, out there, those guys are in the desert. There's nothing. They can't hide behind anything. maybe a rock. And I thought, yeah, be to me a rock and refuge. You be my fortress. So in earlier times than our time, you would build a fortress. Europe is full of them. Ireland's got them along the coast. I've seen some of them. They're not big buildings by our standards. They might be, a couple stories tall, and they're just enclosures. Some rooms maybe inside, but they're basically these castles, these rock fortresses where you can get inside and be safe from enemies' arrows and spears and rocks throwing at you and stuff, because they can't hit you with stuff if you're inside this castle. Now, they can do other things like sit out there and wait for you to run out of food and that sort of thing, but that's the way war was fought. And so God is going to be the rock and fortress for David, a place in which he can hide and be safe and find comfort and find help. And that's what God is doing for us. We run around all the time and don't really realize it, but God is there to provide a fortress for us against the enemies that come our way, who aren't literally shooting us with bows and arrows, but other sorts of things are being aimed at us. And so when you feel the oppression of those enemies, God is your fortress. So I hope that that helps you today, and I hope that you have a wonderful Tuesday, and we will see you tomorrow, I promise.